Hi, I'm Wayne Hockmeyer, the originator of the Banjo minnow. In this video, I am going to demonstrate how to rig a Banjo 006 minnow and our new Banjo 009 swim minnow. I will then demonstrate the various retrieves and techniques used to fish these minnows and make them come alive.
The new Banjo 006 minnow is much improved from the original Banjo minnow. It features diamond flash, iridescent holographic foil, and artistic color design. It has strategically placed swim cuts, making it easier to swim and duplicate lifelike action. It has detachable eyes that come in 3 different colors: black and white, red and black, and holographic eyes. Best of all, these eyes come in 2 different weights. There are heavy eyes for fishing in deep water or on the bottom as a jig, and light plastic swimming eyes for fishing near the surface. The new detachable eyes have a stem with an eyelet at the end for attaching the bait to a hook. Choose the color and the weight of the eye you want and simply bend the nose of the minnow and insert the stem into the hole that is molded into the nose of the minnow. Push the stem forward and push the eye itself into the eye socket. The eye fits perfectly into the head of the minnow. Once the eye has been inserted, the eyelet will barely protrude from the nose of the bait. You are now ready to attach the minnow to your hook. Depress the nose of the minnow with your fingertip, exposing the eyelet. Now insert the point of the hook through the eyelet and push until the bob of the hook goes completely through the eyelet. The fish hook is now locked into the bait and will not come off while you are fishing. Directly in front of the eyelet hole is a slit that runs from the eyelet back towards the eyes. You can easily remove the bait from your hook by positioning the bob of the hook directly in line and opposite of this slit. Now push the hook itself into the slit and towards the eyeballs. This will bring the bob into the eyelet and allow you to now detach the hook by slipping the bob through the eyelet. It is no longer necessary to have to cut your line and retie another knot in order to change baits. It is recommended that the Banjo 006 minnow be rigged to swim on its side, mimicking a real live injured bait fish. This is done by moving the bowl of the hook to the side of the bait. Grasp the eyes of the bait between 2 fingers and with the opposite hand hold the hook. Now twist the hook 90 degrees several times until the hook point is over the side of the bait. Twisting a little further than 90 degrees helps in order to get the hook point to hold its position over the side of the bait. The Banjo 006 minnow comes in 5 different sizes. There is a 3-inch minnow, a 4-inch, a 5-inch, and a 7 and 9-inch minnow. The 3, 4, and 5-inch minnows are generally used with a number 8 Banjo weedless hook for the 3-inch, a number 4 hook for the 4-inch minnow, and a number 1 hook for the 5-inch minnow. The 7-inch minnow is usually fished with a heavy-duty number 3/0 hook, and the 9-inch minnow with either a 5/0 or 6/0 hook. You are not, however, restricted to using one size hook for each size minnow. It is possible to use a number 1 hook on a 3-inch minnow and a number 8 hook on a 5-inch minnow. I personally use the number 1 hook on the 3, 4, and 5-inch minnow when I am fishing around vegetation or heavy cover and using the Banjo weed guard. I will now show you how to attach a weed guard to a Banjo weedless hook. Place the hook in one hand and hold the weed guard in the opposite hand. Place the weed guard over the eyelet of the hook and then pull the weed guard into the eyelet. When you relax the weed guard, it expands and will not slip back out of the eyelet. Now pull on the weed guard and insert your index finger into the center of the weed guard. Now insert your middle finger into the center of the weed guard and separate your 2 fingers. Pull the weed guard up and behind the bob of the hook and release. The hook is now weedless. When a fish grabs the bait, it will depress the weed guard, exposing the hook point. When the fish turns and pulls the line tight, you will hook the fish. If you are fishing in open water, do not use the weed guard. It is not necessary. Never store the weed guards in direct sunlight as they will dry out. The Banjo 006 Big Fish Kit contains a specially scented Spike-It bleeding red magic marker that is specially formulated to write on any soft plastic bait. You can create a visible red wound on the minnow. The Banjo minnow can also be rigged with our El Cinco hooks. These hooks have a very short shank and are meant to be hooked at the bottom side of the bait, directly behind the front pectoral fin. The El Cinco hook is heavy and will sink fast. The hook is designed to move the bait sideways and create a very spastic swimming action.
Now that we've learned how to rig these minnows, it's time to go to the water and learn how to fish them.
The first retrieve that I want to show you is a very simple retrieve. It's called the jerk and stop. And what you do is you jerk. Your jerks should be very quick, very fast, and then a pause. What the pause does is allow the bait to change directions. It also creates slack so that if I get a hit, the fish can inhale the whole bait and be sure to get the hook. It's very simple. Almost anybody can do it. It's just a jerk and stop, jerk and stop, jerk and stop. I have to always be sure I never pull the bait with my arms or that I reel the bait. All the movement of the bait is done with the rod tip, and it is just done on the jerk. Now, you keep your jerks. The jerk can be longer, about that long, but the bait should never go further than 2 feet when you're doing a jerk and stop. And then you reel up the slack, and just before you get to the end, you jerk it, and then you jerk it, and then you jerk it. Now, there is a variation of this if you get a little practice. And that variation of it is you go jerk, reel it up, jerk, 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 and all the time I'm reeling up slack, jerk, jerk, jerk. It's called walking the dog. What this does is it allows the bait is going like this. It goes different directions and it walks into the boat. But that takes a little practice. But you can tell if you're doing it right, once you see that bait change directions every single jerk, then you know you're doing it right. If you see a fish come up and take the bait, or you feel something, or you see the line all of a sudden tight, do not strike. Do not snap your wrist into it to set the hook. What you do is reel tight, and then you pull the bait into the fish's mouth. The fish will try to turn to get away from you, and he will hook himself. But if you snap a bait when you have slack line, or that fish has not really got the hook in him, you can just snap the bait right out of his mouth. Here's a tip. When you're fishing and you just can't get fish, what you've got to do is slow down. And what I mean by that is you take your pauses and make them huge. Let the bait go to bottom. It can go right down and look like it's dying and just sit on bottom. And all you want to do when it gets down there for your movement is, you know it's on bottom, you just barely move it. Just touch your rod like that. Twitch it. And then just let it sit. And then twitch it. Just remember, when you can't catch them,
slow down. What I'm going to do right now is demonstrate the swimming minnow retrieve. While I do this is I put 3 or 4 or 5 quick jerks, almost like a wiggle in the tip of my rod. Boop, 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 boop. And that's what I do. Boop, 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 boop. And every time I do that, the minnow will swim. But then I get my rod tip right back to the minnow, because if I don't want a tight line, I'm trying to keep that minnow within 2 or 3 feet. At the very most, it shouldn't go further than that. And then I instantly put the rod tip right back towards the bait. I'll go boop, 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 and then I get it back. And then I boop, 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 back, and reel up the slack. And I let it die again, and then I go boop, 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 boop. And every time I do that, it swims. But I got to be careful that I don't keep a tight line on it. I've got to be very careful of that. But it's very realistic, and sometimes it's the only thing that will catch fish. It's just so lifelike looking. I want to show you now what I call a spastic action retrieve. And the spastic action retrieve really is nothing more than the swimming retrieve and a jerk and stop put together. I'm going to vary what I do. It does everything. I'm going to cast it out, and I can either swim it right off, or I can let it just sink like this. Right now that minnow is just dying, going down the bottom, and I'm going to all of a sudden, give it a quick jerk, watch my line, see if I get a bite, then I'm going to make a jerk, and then I'm going to swim it. So I jerk, and then I swim it. Now I let it die again, and I'll let it die, and then I'm going to make it look like it's trying to recover, it's injured, it's going to try to swim. So I swim it, and I swim it, and I swim it, and then I let it die. So I'm varying that, because that's what life does. A hurt bait fish will keep trying to recover and get on, and then he can't. So he dies and he goes back down, and that's what you're trying to do. You give him a whole bunch of different looks, and you're varying the depth at which the minnow is swimming. And when I'm fishing, unless they're really biting, where I use just nothing but a swimming because I cover a lot of ground, I just use a swimming, but then I'll throw in the jerk and stop, and ultimately that's what a wounded minnow does. The last retrieve I'm going to show you is the top water and very fast retrieve. The bait just keeps moving and moving. There are some species who want a fast-moving bait, or a bait that moves. If you stop, they refuse to bite it. Now, most fish hit on a stop bait, but there are species like peacock and bluefish, they want a moving bait. What I do is I cast out and I keep the bait moving. Just jerk, 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 jerk. Rod tip high, it's the easiest way to do this. What I'm trying to do is keep the bait moving at all times, so that but at the same time, if something wants to come up and hit it, I am keeping the line is floating in the air, it's going all over the place. My jerks never really, except for an instant, jerk the bait ahead to keep the movement going. I'm reeling to put the line back on my reel, but at the same time, there is slack a good part of the time. Most of the time, there is slack in the air. Now, it looks like I don't know what I'm doing if somebody's watching you, but that's exactly what I want to do. I'm just jerking, keeping the bait on the air. It's going across the surface like a wounded fish. The Banjo 009 swim minnow can be fished identical to the regular Banjo minnow. The major difference with this bait is you must use a weighted hook. It can also be used with a stinger hook.
I am now going to show you how to rig the Banjo 009 swim minnow using a weighted Banjo hook and a Banjo stinger hook. The first thing you do is slip the eyelet of the stinger hook over the point of the weighted hook. Once the stinger is attached, you are ready to slip the hook point of the weighted hook through the eyelet of the minnow. The stinger cannot come off once the minnow is attached. You now have two choices as to where you wish to place the stinger hook. If you want it to swim in a normal, upright position, you place one of the treble hook prongs in the belly of the minnow, directly in front of the forward swim cut. If you wish to have the minnow swim on its side, you must first reposition the point of the nose hook by twisting it 90 degrees as previously shown. You then insert one of the hook prongs of the treble hook into the middle of the side of the bait, just forward of the front swim cut. It is suggested that you swim the minnow in an upright position if trolling or crankbaiting, and on its side if you are jerkbaiting.
Without the stinger hook, it can be used as a jerkbait the same way as the Banjo minnow. What I'm going to do is show you the little differences in fishing this. I'm going to jerk, 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 and then I'm going to just keep wiggling the hook, but I'm always going to create slack as I'm doing this. Maybe it'll flop around in the air. Maybe it doesn't look good, but what it does is if you get bit, you will be able to hook the fish because the slack on the line, he'll grab the whole bait. If you put the stinger on it, you can then just keep it going without any jerks. You can, as I said, you can troll it. You can have a person who's never fished just put the stinger on it, throw it out, and reel it back in. It will swim all the way.
The new Banjo 009 swim minnow can be trolled, used as a crankbait, or even as a jerkbait. The Banjo 006 minnow is still the only fishing lure in the world that has all of its movement totally controlled by the hands of the angler. You will be amazed how easy it is to perfectly duplicate the spastic action of a real live minnow. And when you do that, you will be able to catch fish when no one else can. And when you catch the big one, write me a letter at wayne@banjominnow.com and tell me about it. Good luck and good fishing.